Phoenix, 2022. A woman named Maya is walking to her car in a parking garage after a late shift. She hears footsteps behind her, fast, deliberate, getting closer. Every alarm in her body fires at once. She knows something is wrong, and then nothing. She stops. Her legs won't move. Her hands won't move. She can't scream. She can't run. She just stands there, frozen, while a man grabs her bag and shoves her to the ground. It is over in 8 seconds. Later, when police ask her what happened, she says the same thing thousands of victims say every year. I don't know why I didn't run. I knew I should. I just couldn't. Maya did not freeze because she was weak. She did not freeze because she lacked courage. She froze because her brain did exactly what human brains have been programmed to do under sudden extreme threat for 200,000 years. And nobody ever told her that was going to happen or what to do about it. That ends today. I'm Asha, and this is Safety Nest. What you are about to learn in the next 15 minutes could be the most important thing you hear this year. Here is what happened inside Maya's brain in the moment those footsteps got close. Her amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, fired an emergency signal so fast and so overwhelming that it hijacked control from her prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for rational thought, decision-making, and voluntary movement. In a sudden extreme threat, hijacked, offline, gone. What takes over instead is a much older system. A system that predates language, predates civilization, predates human beings as we currently exist. The threat response system that kept our ancestors alive on the savannah for 200,000 years. That system has 3 outputs: fight, flight, freeze. You have heard of fight or flight your entire life, but nobody talks about freeze, even though research shows it is the most common initial response to sudden unexpected threat. Not fight, not flight, freeze. A 2015 study on threat responses found that tonic immobility, the technical term for the freeze response, occurred in over 70% of participants when exposed to a sudden threat stimulus they had no prior warning of. 70%. That means the majority of people in a real sudden crisis will freeze first. Not because they chose to, because their brain chose for them before they could do anything about it. Here is what makes the freeze response so dangerous in the modern world, and why it matters that we are talking about it right now. In the natural environment this response evolved for, freezing had a purpose. A predator's vision is often triggered by movement. Staying completely still, even involuntarily, sometimes meant the difference between being seen and not being seen. Freeze kept our ancestors alive. In that context, it made biological sense. But you are not being hunted by a predator on a savannah. You are being followed in a parking garage. You are being cornered in an elevator. You are being approached at an ATM. And in those situations, in the modern threats that Safety Nest exists to prepare you for, the freeze response does not protect you. It exposes you. It removes your ability to run, to shout, to fight back, to draw attention, to make any decision at all. For an average of 3 to 5 seconds, sometimes longer, you are completely offline. And in 3 to 5 seconds, everything can change. The tragedy of Maya's story, and of every similar story, is not that she froze. It is that she never knew she was going to. She had never been told that this was a normal, biological, predictable response to sudden threat. She had never been given anything to do about it. And because she was unprepared for the freeze, she had no way out of it. That is what this video is going to fix. Now, some people do not freeze, or they freeze for a fraction of a second and snap out of it almost instantly. You have probably heard stories of people who acted in a crisis with extraordinary speed and clarity, who ran, who fought back, who shouted, who made the right decision in a moment that gave them almost no time to think. And you might have assumed that those people are just built differently, that they have something you do not. That courage is the variable. It is not courage. It is preloading. The people who break out of the freeze fastest are not the bravest. They are the most prepared. Specifically, they have one thing that most people do not. They have a pre-made decision. Before the threat arrived, they had already answered the question their brain was trying to answer in real time. Not consciously, not necessarily deliberately, but through prior training, prior thought, or prior experience. Their brain already had an answer to the question, what do I do right now? And because that answer already existed, their prefrontal cortex came back online faster. The freeze window shortened. Motion returned. They moved. This is not a metaphor. This is neuroscience. When a decision already exists in your memory, when it is preloaded, your brain does not have to generate it from scratch under maximum stress with your prefrontal cortex offline. It simply retrieves it, and retrieval is orders of magnitude faster than generation. That is the entire mechanism behind every military pre-drill, every first responder training protocol, every self-defense course ever designed. Preload the decision, shorten the freeze, restore motion. So here's the fix. It is not a self-defense technique. It is not a martial arts move. It is not a breathing exercise you need to practice for 6 months. It is a 3-step mental preload that takes under 3 seconds to execute and that you can program into your brain starting today. The 3 steps are name it, move it, commit it. Let me walk you through each one in detail. The moment you sense something is wrong, the moment your body starts to react, you say one word, out loud if possible, in your head if not. A single word that names what is happening. Threat, run, go, now. It does not matter which word. What matters is that you use language. Here is why this is not motivational advice. This is neuroscience. Language is processed in the prefrontal cortex. By forcing your brain to generate a single word, even one word. In the first moment of a threat, you are actively re-engaging the prefrontal cortex that the amygdala just hijacked. You are essentially rebooting the decision-making system by making it do the one thing it is uniquely responsible for: process language. Research from the University of California shows that simply labeling an emotional or threat experience, affect labeling they call it, measurably reduces amygdala activation and restores prefrontal function faster than any other single intervention. One word, that is all it takes to begin breaking the freeze. In Maya's scenario, if she had trained herself to say run the moment threat registered, her brain would have started coming back online in under a second. The freeze window would have shortened from 5 seconds to 1. 1 second changes everything in a parking garage. The second step happens immediately after the first, within the same second if possible, and it is the simplest physical instruction you will ever receive for a life-threatening situation. Move anything. One body part, any body part. Your hand, your foot, turn your head. Take one step. It does not have to be the right move. It does not have to be a run or a fight or a defense. It just has to be movement. Because the freeze response, tonic immobility, is maintained by the brain's suppression of motor signals. The moment voluntary movement begins, any movement, the motor suppression starts to break down. One movement unlocks the next, and the next unlocks the one after that. This is why military and law enforcement training under crisis conditions always begins with a physical trigger. A tap on the shoulder, a hand signal, a step. not because the movement itself matters strategically, but because the movement breaks the lock. First responders call it breaking the startle, the deliberate introduction of voluntary physical action to override the involuntary freeze. You are doing the same thing, deliberately, consciously, in the first second after you name the threat. One movement, any movement. The direction can be decided in motion. You cannot decide anything standing still. The third step is the hardest, not physically, but psychologically. Once you have named the threat and broken the freeze with one movement, you commit. You pick one direction, one action, and you go. No second guessing, no refinement. No pausing to evaluate whether you chose the best option. The moment you begin evaluating options in real time under extreme threat, you risk sliding back into freeze. The brain under maximum stress is not built for multi-option evaluation. It is built for binary decisions, this way or that way, run or shout, door or wall. Pick one, go. The reason this step has to be trained is that our instinct under uncertainty is to pause and find the best option. In most of life, that is correct. In a crisis, it is exactly wrong. A good decision made in 1 second is worth 10 times more than a perfect decision made in 5. Because in those 4 additional seconds, the situation has already moved without you. Commit means trust the first decision your brain makes after it comes back online. It came online for a reason. It is using every piece of information available to it. Trust it. Move. Let's go back to Maya in that parking garage. Not the Maya who froze. The Maya who had trained the 3-step fix. Same garage, same late shift, same footsteps getting closer. Her amygdala fires. The freeze response begins. And then, one word somewhere in her brain, conscious or not, threat. Her prefrontal cortex begins rebooting. Before the freeze can fully take hold, she moves her hand, just her hand. One movement, motor suppression begins to break, and in the same second, she commits. There is a stairwell exit to her left. She goes left, she goes fast. She does not stop to check whether right would have been better. She goes left. The footsteps do not follow into the stairwell. She gets out. That entire sequence, name, move, commit, takes under 3 seconds. 3 seconds to break a freeze response that would otherwise last 5 or more. 3 seconds that change the outcome entirely. And here is what I need you to understand about that version of Maya. She is not braver. She is not stronger. She is not built differently. She is just preloaded. She did the work before the moment arrived so that the moment could not undo her. That is available to every single person watching this video, including you, including right now. Knowing the 3 steps is not enough. Your brain needs to have practiced them before the crisis arrives, even in imagination. Here is the preloading protocol that takes 5 minutes and can be done anywhere. Once a day for 7 days, you run a mental rehearsal. Close your eyes. Picture a specific environment, a parking garage, an elevator, a dark street. Picture a specific threat signal. Footsteps, a figure moving toward you, a door blocking your exit. Then, out loud or in your head, you run the fix. Threat. One movement, one direction. Go. You do not need to be in danger to train this. You just need to be deliberate about it. Your brain cannot fully distinguish between a vividly imagined rehearsal and a real experience in terms of neural pathway formation. Every rehearsal builds the retrieval path. Every repetition shortens the freeze window. Elite military units rehearse scenarios mentally before every operation. Olympic athletes run their event in their mind the night before competition. Emergency room surgeons mentally walk through rare procedures before they encounter them. This is not mysticism. It is applied neuroscience. Your brain is a prediction machine. give it a prediction to work with. Let it preload the answer so it does not have to generate it from scratch at the worst possible moment. Maya froze because nobody told her what was going to happen to her body in a crisis. You now know. You know that 70% of people will freeze in a sudden threat. You know why? The amygdala hijack, the prefrontal cortex going offline, the motor suppression that locks your body in place. You know that it is not weakness, it is biology. And you know that biology can be trained. Name it, move it, commit it. 3 steps under 3 seconds. The difference between frozen and moving. Between outcome A and outcome B. Between the story Maya lived and the story she could have lived. Share this video with someone you care about. Not because something bad is going to happen to them, but because this information should not be a secret. It should not be something only soldiers and first responders and elite athletes know. It should be something every person carries. That is why this channel exists. Subscribe if you want more. And drop in the comments, did you know the freeze response was this common? Most people are genuinely shocked by 70%. I want to hear your reaction. Stay aware. Stay safe.